Been a while since I've done this. Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Elliot Webber and welcome back to episode 4 of my TCR UK race roundup. Yeah, that is right, we're doing this once again a little bit later than I want it to come out. Unfortunately, I've been a bit busy the past few weeks, a lot of family stuff to sort out. Not only that, I was actually at Formula E last Saturday watching Jake Dennis become the world champion. That was actually a pretty cool sight, so congratulations to Jake Dennis on that. But yeah, we're not here to talk about Formula E, we're here to talk about TCR UK and its return to racing, of course, after its first 3 races, and its first 6 races, so its first 3 rounds. They went on a little bit of a summer break, an early summer break than usual, but they came back in full force in Scotland at KNOCKHILL a few weeks ago. And so, yeah, let's get straight into it, because once again, there is a lot to talk about. So, starting off with qualifying on what would, for the first time this year, be a triple header event, which means for the first time this year, TCR UK will be holding 3 races across its weekend, 1 on Saturday and then 2 on the Sunday. Qualifying, of course, was held on the Saturday, and it was none other than Carl Boardley who would take pole position, another pole position ticked off. I believe he's had more than one this year. I honestly can't remember. It's been so confusing with track limits and whatnot. But Carl Boardley did take pole position at KNOCKHILL, followed by Jack Constable taking second place. Another great result for Jack. It really seems to be like he is now starting to get used to the Audi, and it seems like he could potentially be an outsider for the championship. And then in P3, rounding off the top 3, was Joe Marshall, someone who's been really impressive. In fact, I actually did not expect Joe to be so on the pace straight away. He's someone who, of course, had a podium at Croft. So, yeah, Joe, who, of course, I don't see him being a championship contender this year, but he is 100% being one of the most impressive rookies this year. So the top 3 in qualifying was Carl Boardley, Jack Constable, and Joe Marshall. I unfortunately did not watch qualifying, I missed that. So yeah, my star of the session, I'm simply going to give it to Carl Boardley. I think he's done so well recently. Of course, it seems to be that he is delving well with the TCR machinery in what is his rookie season. And yeah, I think he's been unbelievable at the minute. Of course, if you had watched the races at KNOCKHILL, you will know that Carl is now the championship leader, and he is someone who has performed brilliantly these past couple of races. And yeah, it will be really intriguing to see how the season goes on. Carl's consistency, I think, is what's helping, and in fact, his raw speed. We know how quick Carl can be if he's got the right car under him, and it seems to be he's had the right car under him for the past few races. So yeah, Carl Boardley on pole, Jack Constable second, and Joe Marshall third. Now let's move on to race number 1. So race number 1 kicked off on the Saturday afternoon, and it was, well, to be pretty straightforward, it was Carl Boardley who absolutely dominated race 1. It was just an absolutely unreal performance, something I'd honestly never really expected from someone like Carl. It was just domination. He would win the race by over 10 seconds. Something that I do believe is one of the most dominant wins in TCR history. I do believe it is, in fact, the biggest race-winning margin of any driver in TCR UK, but do not quote me on that. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, absolutely unreal. It was an unreal performance by Carl in what would be his 2nd career win in TCR UK. Absolutely unbelievable, and a win that would indeed give him the championship lead, as I mentioned earlier on. So yeah, as for Carl, just unstoppable. Jack Constable would have quite a quiet race in P2. He would take another podium in his Audi. And again, consistent points from Jack Constable, who's someone who we've known to be quite consistent recently, and someone in previous years where consistency has favoured him a lot. So yeah, Jack Constable once again another brilliant podium, and Adam Shepherd once again returning to the podium in his Hyundai. Hyundai recently have seemingly dropped off him a little bit in performance. I don't know if that's because the i30N is starting to age a bit, or if it's just maybe the BOP hasn't worked in their favour. I honestly don't know, but yeah, it does seem to me like the high-end guys are slowly dropping in pace, and it seems like the Cupras and the Audis are starting to outperform them a little bit. But yeah, Adam Shepherd, great to see him on the podium. Of course, a friend of our family's, as I've mentioned many times before, I think, of course, his company has worked on my dad's car. So thanks, Shepherd Motors, for that. But yeah, great to see someone like Adam on the podium, of course. We've spoken to him on the channel in an interview. Such a nice guy. So personally, for me to see him doing well is amazing. And I do believe now on drop scores, he's third in the championship after the KNOCKHILL weekend. So yeah, Adam Shepherd, once again, his raw speed and his consistency is what's keeping him a dark horse for the championship. So yeah, your top three in race one was Carl Boardley, Jack Constable, and Adam Shepherd. Of course, there were some track limits, so I don't think that was the running, or that was the finishing order at the end of all the penalties, but I don't think that was the order on track. Again, it was very confusing with all these track limits. Yeah, my driver of the race for race one has to be Jack Constable, has to be Carl Boardley. Again, pole position, and just absolutely ran away with it. He stayed out of trouble, kept his head down, won by 10 seconds, something that is quite rare in touring car racing, to win by over 10 seconds. But yeah, Carl Boardley just showing his amazing talent as per. So here, of course, he gets my driver of the race in race number one. Now let's move on to race number two, and what a race this one was. So race number two, and oh my days, what a race this was. Possibly one of the best races of the season so far. It was my personal favourite race from this weekend. My oh my, what a race it was. Of course, with it being a triple header, the format was changed a little bit. It would be the qualifying results would determine the grid for races 1 and 3, and race 2 would be determined by the top 10 finishing order reverse. So whoever finished 10th in race 1 would start on pole for race 2. And that man was Matthew Wilson. He seems to be having a habit of starting a reverse grid pole. He's done it a few times. But yeah, Matthew Wilson would start on pole position for race number 2. And as I mentioned, what a race it was. Matthew Wilson drove phenomenally well. Of course, he didn't hold on to that first place, but he fought for it like a champion. And it was so great to see Matthew Wilson, of course, who is someone who probably doesn't have... I'm trying to say this in a nice way, but Matthew Wilson, in my opinion, he's not the best driver on the grid, but he certainly is not the worst. And I think, and he's got that fighting spirit. He got his elbows out. He defended amazingly well from drivers like Alex Lee, from Jensen Brickley, from Carl Boardley as well, who was on it today. Carl Boardley, who in fact was actually set to win this race again from 10th on the grid until, well, penalties. It would be, once again, track limits that would stop Carl Boardley from taking 2 out of 2 because he, I believe, got a 5-second time penalty for, of course, track limits, something that, yeah, we need to have a conversation about that, and we'll get into that later. So, if it wasn't Carl Boardley, who was it? Well, originally, it was meant to be Jensen Brickley who was going to take the win. However, he then got a penalty for I will call it a fair penalty for quite a dodgy move into the final hairpin on Alex Lee. What happened was Alex Lee was in front defending his position, and then Jensen Brickley simply hit the back of Lee, and that caused Alex Lee to go wide, which is then basically a push to pass. For me, the penalty was fair. Now, I know some people have said that it was actually unfair on how, you know, it felt a little bit harsh because, of course, we love to see aggressive door-to-door racing. Now, I'm going to agree to an extent. Of course, I want to see these guys go wheel-to-wheel, door-to-door, bumper-to-bumper. I want to see wing mirrors in the gravel. But it was a push to pass. Brickley did push him out the way, even if he didn't mean to. A push to pass is a push to pass. Alex Lee has every right to defend the position. He has every right to defend his corner because he's in front. So yeah, a shame for Jensen Brickley. As I mentioned, he is probably, aside from Carl Boardley, Jensen at such a young age has been extremely impressive. Of course, if you take away the drop scores, I believe Brickley is actually third in the championship at the minute. So yeah, Jensen is someone who very well could be a future star of tin tops and touring car racing. So yeah, a big shame for Brickley. He was demoted to second place, however. And yeah, with all those penalties, it meant Alex Lee would finally take his first win of 2023. Again, great to see Alex Lee do so well. He is someone who has struggled these past few races. He hasn't really had any luck, I think, especially with the recent pace of the Hyundai. Of course, he was going to struggle. So yeah, but great to see Alex Lee come back and take his first win. Of course, as I mentioned, Jensen Brickley was demoted from first to second post-race. And Adam Shepherd out of nowhere took another podium, his second podium in a row. And as I mentioned, that consistency is what favours people in a championship like TCR. And Adam Shepherd, with that consistency, it's really helping his championship assault. Of course, we know I do believe he's luckily found the budget to complete the rest of the season. Of course, as I mentioned, go watch my interview with him from earlier on in the year. It's a great watch. He, of course, mentioned that he only had the money to do rounds 2 and potentially 3. Of course, we're now at round 4 and he's still here. So I do believe Adam Shepherd has got the budget to finish the season. If not, then I hope he does. But yeah, Adam Shepherd once again P3. Great to see. Kyle Boardley, you're probably wondering, where was Kyle Boardley in the end? Well, turns out he finished P4 because of the penalty in what was a very close finish. I actually think one of the closest finishes we've ever seen. Brickley and Boardley side by side on the last lap. A great finish and a great race to top it off. My driver of the race for race 2. Now that is extremely tough, but once again, I'm going to have to give it to Kyle Boardley. The way he made his way through the field so effortlessly and so easily, where he honestly should have won that race had it not been for a track limits penalty. So yeah, my driver of the race, even despite the penalty, is Kyle Boardley, but I'm going to give Alex Lee, Jensen Brickley and Matthew Wilson honourable mentions because they all drove phenomenal as well. So yeah, now let's move on to race 3. So the final race of the weekend, race number 3. And unfortunately, there's not much to talk about because, to be honest, not much happened there. I don't think there was much racing from this race, which is unfortunate. Looking back at the results, everyone who started finished where they started, which is a big shame. Aside from a few people who made up ground, there wasn't much overtaking in this one, which is quite a shame, especially considering the other championship isn't doing so well when it comes to overtaking and racing at the minute. But yeah, which meant pole sitter Kyle Boardley took another lights to flag. He wouldn't have a bigger race winning margin as he did in race 1, but it would once again be another victory on Kyle Boardley's list of wins, let's say. Yeah, another win added to the list of wins. So yeah, again, Kyle Boardley, phenomenal drive, absolutely phenomenal. It seems to be that this weekend at KNOCKHILL, he was an Ash Sutton level driver, and to be honest, he looked completely untouchable this weekend, in fact. And as I've mentioned, if it weren't for the penalty, it would have been 3 wins out of 3, which would have been a first in TCR history. And it's a case of what could have been for Kyle Boardley. He very well and truly could have done 3 out of 3 and probably should have done, depending on everyone's opinions on his penalty in race 2. It well and truly could have been a perfect weekend. Pole position, 3 race wins, the championship lead as well. It obviously could have got better, but when it comes to performance-wise, he could not have done it any better. So Kyle Boardley once again taking the second race win his second race win of the weekend. Jensen Brickley would take another second place in a row, a great result for him. And as I've mentioned, Brickley, aside from Kyle Boardley, Jensen Brickley has probably been the most impressive rookie in my eyes. I think, again, with his age and his lack of experience in tin tops, despite the fact he is a Fiesta Junior champion, a Fiesta ST400 champion, ST240 champion, sorry. Yeah, another impressive day for Jensen Brickley. He should be proud of himself. And P3 for Joe Marshall. And again, as I've mentioned, Marshall and Brickley and Boardley, they've been the top 3 most impressive rookies in my eyes. So great to see Joe Marshall return to the podium, his second podium of his TCR career, of course, after obtaining one at Croft. So once again, my driver of the race. Well, I gave it to Boardley in race 1. I gave it to Boardley in race 2. And honestly, I'm going to give it to Boardley in race 3. He had such a perfect weekend. He was the best driver on the grid at KNOCKHILL, and yeah, I just can't give it to anyone else. I just can't. Boardley was absolutely perfect at KNOCKHILL, which is why he, of course, with getting races 1, 2 and 3 driver of the races, he gets my overall driver of the weekend. And to be honest, was it going to be anyone else? I don't think so, in my opinion. It was an absolutely unreal weekend for Carl Boardley. And yeah, now that he's in the championship lead, it will be impressive to see what Bruce Winfield does from now on. Of course, Bruce was the championship leader coming into this week, coming into the event. Of course, he's lost that now, but it will be interesting to see how the BOP affects things going forward. Will the Cupras now be pegged back because of how successful they were at KNOCKHILL, or will the Hyundais still have to play some catch up? And in fact, what about the Audis? How well will the Audis do at the next round? It is really intriguing to see how this championship fight is going to unfold in the next few races at Silverstone, I believe, in about 2 weeks' time. So thank you guys so much for watching. What were your opinions on TCR UK at KNOCKHILL? What were your opinions on the 3-race format that they did? What are your opinions on Carl Boardley's recent run of form? And what are your predictions for the next round at Silverstone? Of course, if you are new around here, be sure to like this video, share with your mates as well, because it of course does help my channel grow. And of course, please press that red subscribe button, because we are firmly on the road to 200 subscribers. We've gained a few more subscribers in the past few weeks. So if you're one of those new viewers and new subscribers, hello, thanks for watching. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. And of course, I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.